Yes, good morning, friends. A little after 5 a.m. Part 2 of Out of Body Journal, June 2017. And not much light, but we don't need much light because it's the inner light. And as George Harrison said, the farther one travels, the less one knows. Continuing on from yesterday's, it's the same timeline, the same night between evening and the next morning, continuing on. Do you want to believe? Do you want to doubt? Do you want to deny? Do you want to dismiss? Do you want to continue with your comfort zone tunnel reality? These are the choices, not only of you as a potential explorer, but you as a potential explainer to others who would not be explorers, who would shun that in favor of being a sensible citizen and family member, and supporting the society in a rational, constructive way, and not being, a fantasizing loony talking about what's out there when you can't prove it, or mostly can't prove it, except for maybe Granddad said he really misses you, and he really misses playing golf with you. And he is sorry that he could still beat you until he was 85. Things like that might turn a few heads. But that's what it's about, the choice to do so. And we all make that choice, every last one of us. The will to believe that all life forms are sentient, including those that we eat. Constantly. It's all sentient. Some choose to believe that certain life forms are very sentient and need to be treated with more kindness, while other life forms are necessary to our survival and do not. I see many on the band of belief on that one. And we're progressing, as we have been for quite some time. And we are progressing in understanding the sentience of the dead, the so-called dead. After leaving Richard Wright, I team up with an occasional colleague. We've all got these occasional colleagues. Some are friends, some are people that you are sort of more like workmates, but you have a common goal in mind. You have sometimes been drawn together by brotherhoods and societies and clubs that do things, service clubs, if you like. And some of you will know of these type of situations, helpers, guides. And we often do this sort of work in disguise. We pretend to be one of them because there are many levels on spirit planes where people are actively participating in the group activities and belief systems because they have not the determination or knowledge to back out and do something else, something more interesting or productive or liberating. They continue on perhaps with habits or desires from their earth plane life, and then find them quickly fulfilled, but can't find a way out. So with one of my colleagues, I'm sitting in a lounge in a fairly fancy resort hotel, um, as you might find in the Caribbean, for example, any one of those lovely islands where people go to have that high-class R&R. We're playing chess in a lounge, sipping at drinks. And our disguise is two certainly not middle-aged, sort of 35-ish aged men in leisure clothes. I love that phrase, leisure clothes. I think I've got a striped shirt on. Yeah, like one of my favorite striped shirts, kind of pink and green. Oh, it's quite delightful. And my friend is in something equally disarming. And because of the nature of the game we're playing, we're have certain attitudes and characters that we've developed. We're more bemused than enthused. We're relaxed. We're play acting, not quite the big men on campus, more the yeah, we've been here, we've done that, we've been on the roundabout and on the swings, and now we're taking a bit of a rest. But we're hip, cool guys, and we do that because there's a lot of recent arrivals. They come and go, and they are ready for action. They're excited. It's the sort of thing they've done on one or two or maybe three or four holidays while they were alive. And it's the sort of item number one or two on their wish list once they get sorted out when they're dead. And when I say sorted out, I mean reunited with whatever family and friends are already in spirit. And, they have a dwelling, a home, a flat, a small house, an apartment. There's all kinds of things available there, just as much as here. We are getting because it's a sort of a upper end working class, middle class phenomenon. For people in the West, this is not necessarily for Aboriginals or peasants or people who do not have those desires. They have other desires. But I think you can imagine sort of people you would meet in these places when they're on Earth, and the place we're at is a model for those places on Earth. And it's luxury, affordable luxury. And it has the appearance of affordable luxury because that's what the dead people need. And not only that, the people that run the place or think they run the place, that's what they need too. They're looking for a more fulfilling life than they had at the two or three places that they ran that went out of business while they were on Earth. These places come and go, and there's an attachment to business success and business failure, and there's the thrill of being able to do it without losing money and without going west, going up, and getting tossed out. So everyone has an angle, everyone has a need, everyone has things ambitions they need to fulfill. Whether they're petty, like, I really want to relax. I really want to get in that bikini and be admired. I really want to attract lovers. Or I really want to manage the staff here better than I did before. There's fulfillment and efficiencies here. So anyway, it operates very smoothly. There's not anything out of place. We play chess, and we get drinks from the bar every once in a while, and we nibble on nuts that are, um, I don't know, softer and sweeter than cashews. I'll tell you that. Sort of look like cashews, and sort of a dark brown. Quite lovely. And there's fruit mixed in with that, dried fruit. And we're sitting there and enjoying our game of chess, waiting for our first customer. And sometimes it takes a long while. Lots of people are here and they're in the groove and they're on their way to do something or on their way to relax after doing something else. And many handsome, good-looking people, as you might see in these places. A few shy, slightly plain-looking types who do not quite fully realize yet that you can manipulate your looks with your thoughts and still look like the sort of withdrawing wallflowers that they might have been on Earth. But they're working their way up. They've found their way to dress, and they're sort of getting ready to play as they move around and go out to the tennis courts or the pool, and but you can see there's a shyness there. They're fairly recent arrivals, and they're excited, but they're still quite timid. And quite often, one or two of them will sit down with us because we've arranged to have chairs beside us. And sure enough, eventually, a couple of young ladies do. And we look up from our game and we chat with them. And it's quite obvious, and we're quite familiar with this, that these two ladies are looking for some romance. And they've picked on us, not because we're startlingly better looking than anyone else, just because we're there. And we look sort of, mostly harmless, but not quite boring. And we play act the two fellas bemusedly playing chess and not in any particular hurry to do anything else. They could meet other men out by the pool who are like really keen to get moving with all that dancing and romance stuff. I'll say that as a little label. And so we chat away with them, and I think that finally, we exchange the sort of who we are and where we've come from and how we're proceeding in our lives, just as you might do in a holiday resort on Earth. Discussing where you're from, your home life, your job, your family, your lack of family, your status, and flirting, pleasantly flirting. Anyway, my colleague and I, we realized that these ladies are all set for action, and that's not quite what we're here for. And we're more for people, men or women, that are ready to say, oof, I think they wouldn't say it in as many words, but they're ready for something else. The pleasure centers have been completely fulfilled. They've been there for a while. They've had all the R&R, all the food, all the drinks, all the one-on-one lovemaking, the group lovemaking that is available, basically the endless fucking, and they're fulfilled. All that sexual frustration that they had coming from Earth has been taken care of, and they don't know quite what else to do as yet. And they see a couple of fellows playing chess, and they think, oh, They look kind of smart. Let's sit down with them. And when we get people like that, not as we're getting at that moment, as I'm touching in on this fluid reality that Astral Gordon is participating in, um, they, things can move on from there. And we're not receiving that tonight, but certainly it happens other times. And quite easily, my colleague, who goes under various names and is not one of the other Gordons that I mentioned in part one. But we have many friends in these places, many, many friends, colleagues, compatriots, chums, people we know from past lives, yada, yada, yada. So we move on. We leave the chess game. No, actually, we sort of fold. Wait a minute. Here, I'm folding it up. Watch my hands. And the chess pieces are on there, and I fold it up, and it goes like, and it disappears. Oh, very cool. Forgot about that. The disappearing chess set. Right, and we stand up, like two old friends, and we walk out. And as we get out into sort of a garden that leads on to, well, yet another garden, and passing people hither and thither, and people with tennis rackets, and people with swimsuits, and people with long flowing dresses, and guys with big chest, bulging muscles, handsome looking people, I tell you. Wow. So one thing about this, everyone's good looking. So and then we just disappear by pre-arrangement. We're thinking about what we'd like to do, and my friend, who regularly goes by the name Brian, but not always, we know that we're going to go to a club gig by the on the, I don't know, mid-astral, I guess. It's an area, an astral plane area that is like the astral plane spirit model for the Bay Area, or what they call the Bay Area around San Francisco, with all the accoutrements, natural accoutrements, and the redwood forests, and the beautiful winding roadways by the water, all the sort of people Californians love about their state, and not so much of what they don't love. Anyway, it looks to me, I mean, it's just another, those beautiful little towns and villages along the California coast, Carmel, there's all sorts of them. And here's another one, and there's a club there. And guess what? Jerry Garcia is playing in a club, and with other musicians, of course. But let me see. We're walking in. They're already playing. We're sit down at the back as it's not mobbed, but it's people know. Not everybody knows. He often plays here under another name, and certainly doesn't look particularly like the young Jerry Garcia you would remember. Although he can do that if he wishes. He sort of walks in looking like we've seen him before. Walks in, looks like somebody else, and then once he's sitting down with the band, he might sort of modify his looks, or his looks will be modified. And you can't always tell, is he modifying his looks to look like a young Jerry Garcia circa 1969, or are the wishes of the people there, who are, often, not always, people who were alive then and are reliving the glory days, are they projecting that wish onto him? It's quite hard to tell. And ultimately, it doesn't matter. We know who he is. He's, that guitar style is unmistakable. And there's an organ, there's someone on piano, bass, actually a fellow on double bass, and a drummer, and see, what else have we got here? A sax player, yeah, a fellow playing sax, and he's probably got a flute line beside him. And they're doing a sort of as you might expect, a sort of cosmic jazzy instrumental. And I can't tell if it's a standard, and I don't really care. But we just sit down at the back and merge. And if you've heard any of the sort of Jerry Garcia band or even the earlier Legion of Mary stuff, you can sort of imagine gentle, drifting textures where um, the rhythm is supportive as well as propulsive, and the vibe is, well, beyond relaxed, that's for sure. No need to prove, no need to sell beer, no need to, although we are, people are drinking, no need to, become a star and push your way up the ladder. There is no ladder. They're just in love with what they're doing. And my friend and I, who sometimes goes by the name Brian, we love it too. And this is something that you can participate in if you project and you wish to project. It's a small club, but he does sometimes play theaters, 1,000 people, that sort of a thing. He might play large festival-y type things. I haven't been to any. But I'm not fully aware of every last thing that Jerry Garcia does, and I'm sure there's a lot he does that isn't even part of Jerry Garcia, his greater self, in which he might just meditate in the light, as many do. He's certainly long since shucked all the chains, the psychic chains of his addictions and bad habits. And as was pointed out in the channeled book by Wendy Weir some years ago, Wendy Weir, Bob Weir's sister, you can find that book. And talks about his higher self and himself, his lower self trying to merge with the higher self and having to give off, let go all the low vibrations and chains that would encumber him from doing so. It's a good account. Useful, educational, fun. I'm touching in on the pleasure that Astral Gordon is getting from this. Obviously, if I go completely into it, I will go silent and not be communicating. So you're only getting a gloss of it. You're only getting, the vibrational headlines, and that is the price we pay for the form that I'm communicating in. I can use all kinds of words like merge with the joy and blissed out from the pleasure. And, I could even remember the great times I had 30 years ago seeing the Grateful Dead here in Canada, which really were quite marvelous. We're talking merging with the crowd, merging with the music, dancing until exhaustion would grip my limbs. It was an experience of oneness that I shall never forget. Gordon, that is, me here now, and the classic Grateful Dead experience. The rhythm devils, the textured angels, the six guys playing as one. Bob Weir and Jerry Garcia as psychic twins, joined at not just the waist, but the heart. It was a remarkable experience. The keyboard player here could be an astral Brent Midland. It doesn't look like him, but it could be. The playing is similar, although not identical. And he's loving having, he's got the organ, he's got the synth, he's got the piano. He's having a blast. And, oh, here they come. There's a couple of ladies singing with them. Of course, there always was, and there is now. And they're doing a song to lovely looking sort of California gals. You know the type. They're just transcendently lovely. And what are they? Let me see if I can tune in on the song. No, I can't. I mean, it's a lovely sort of soothing ballad that could have been written on the astral plane, and not a repeat of something that we know here. Although it could also be some kind of jazz standard that I've never heard, because Jerry's he's got a long reach into musical history, as we all know. And I might just add, he does play with folk players too. Um, Mandolins, fiddles, guitars, very folky stuff. And I have seen that on other occasions. And he's a past master at that too. So we are there for quite some time, quote unquote time, and they're in the gaps between the songs and they taking a break. We'll be back in 20 minutes. Things don't change that much. We chat and enjoy our friendship, my friend Brian and I, and other people sit at their tables and enjoy what they're doing with their friends. Very, very similar to an Earth Club, although it's certainly not smoky, certainly not dirty in any way. Um, you know, the persistence of pleasure on the astral plane, the kind of pleasure that drifts very easily into bliss, I might add.